Alright, call Layim La, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah HaKodash, and double honors unto the elders and apostles GMS who rule well, and shalom to the hopeful elect. And watch this. Let them figure it out. Let them fight. And pray they win. Because ultimately, a win against white supremacy is still a win, no matter who won.
We need to say the truth. White people have never been clean. What he's about to go into is pretty much, during the pages, the ages, whenever, we had to create urinals. If you look it up in history, Jake, we had to, Jake, man, King, it was a King Henry. It was King Henry the second or King Henry the third. Had them install urinals, man, for these people, man, to bathe them and clean them up and, shave them. You're just about to see the type of individual, the mindset of Esau, man. They really they rule in wickedness, man. Like they love dirt and they love see everything that they try to push on you is filth and this and that, filth and nasty and ugly and whatever. This is their history, you know. And at the end of the day, the top elites know that and they don't want to go back to that. But at the end of the day, the Lord is upon us. He's going to set back order on the planet Earth. Remember what he said? He said, when I came, why do I see kings in chains, kings and princes in chains, and servants on horses? But watch. Not now, not ever. Roughly paraphrasing. The entire history of Europe is a story of people refusing to wash their asses while looking down on everyone else. It's not the entire history in Europe, it's that sect of Europe, whenever they were ruling during, took over or started to take over during that 1000 period, or was starting to enter into that 1000 period, AD. So let's start with the ancestors you worship so much, medieval and early modern Europeans. People so filthy, they were literally scared of water. They believed that bathing opened the pores and let in disease. So instead of washing, they simply wiped themselves down with dry rags and perfume. Imagine thinking water is bad for you while living in streets filled with feces and piss. Doctors warned against bathing, saying that it was too stimulating and would weaken the body. Instead, they told people to rub themselves with dry powders or just change their linens and call it a day. King Louis XIV of France, the Sun King, bathed twice in his entire life. Oh, let Lord. That sink in. The most powerful man in Europe smelled like a rotting corpse dipped in cologne. Queen Isabella of Spain also bragged about only bathing twice in her entire life. These people ruled empires while literally festering in their own filth. You want to call other people savages? Let's talk about their hygiene habits, or lack thereof. They didn't wash their clothes. They just aired them out like letting filth touch fresh air was some kind of magical cleaning method. They slept in lice-infested beds and wore the same sweat-soaked, piss-stained clothing for weeks or months at a time. Queen Elizabeth I bragged about only changing her undergarments once a month. Her whole palette. I'm gonna show you something else, man. Because when you dig into the spirit of this individual, man, the spirit, that spirit of Esau, man, that mindset, right? That vibration, that unclean, profane mind, abominable, vile mindset, man. This man is the basest man. He's the base men on the earth, man. So he said the Lord has set the bases of men above us, man. The wicked, everything that the Lord, deems as righteous and clean and good, he goes against, man, with his own agenda, his own doctrine. Like literally, you just heard him, you know, you're supposed to wash your ass, man. You're supposed to, clean out those pores, man, with water. That's why, our customs, they really they take our customs and they try to, humiliate us, in this modern age. They try to humiliate us, but really all the things that they learned came from so-called Israelites, the customs of the Israelites. Now we know that all Israelites wasn't gonna be black, but they damn sure aren't is white supremacy. They aren't the ones in the land right now.
And what you're seeing, as I said, the Lord is attacking all angles, man. White supremacy has been attacked and being brought down. There's a whole bunch of things being attacked and being brought down from, the lies of the governments, white supremacy. Eve is going down with her daddy Esau, her top daddy Esau. So she's going down. Niggas are YNs, young lions, like I in the last video with the Ezekiel, was it Ezekiel 19 or Ezekiel 18? It talks about the parable, the funeral song. So young niggas are going down. You know, Esau is going to he's going to end up killing himself. They're going to kill themselves. It's going to be mass chaos, man. Animals are pretty much in sync, man, with Jake. You see in videos of animals, helping Jake, and these are things that's going to be happening for the hopeful elect, man. But look, these are the spirit of the Edomite, man. These Edomites, you know, they get a little win, one little victory, and they feel like, Edomite get one victory, in society. They feel like that's the only victory that he need to attach to. All the thousands upon thousands of victories you done made, you done beat this motherfucker in, they don't acknowledge that. They may get two or three wins. They always gonna hold that on over you. Like, yeah, well, I beat you here, but what about the other 100,000 times I beat you? Anyways.
Is entirely unlivable. It's real. You're not accepting how serious this is. There's a homeless shelter in the middle of the front yard. Yeah, it smells like urine. What's going on?
My brother's invading the house.
Who are you calling?
The police. Now I'm away from anybody who can bother me.
That's Esau for you,
I
man.
had an immaculate house. My mom's a hoarder. My dad is a hoarder. I think I am also a hoarder. I ain't no freaking room. Give me it. That's something I just can't see giving up right now.
And what you really understand, that psychological demon behind hoarding, it's really just a spirit. There's certain things in you that's just being put in you. You talked about the spirit. And, well, Moses blessed his children with a certain spirit. Well, he gave the nations a certain spirit as well. And this is just in their spirit, man. Hoarding. And at the end of the day, we just gonna prove with the scriptures. That's why, in these days, that's why we say, you got to analyze the spirit of an individual, man. You know, everybody, is going through, what they're going through. Obviously, we're under curses. Jake is suffering. We all suffer in some kind of way. We all going through it. But at the end of the day, there is a separation. There's a separation between us and the Egyptians. Excuse me, and there's separation between us and Esau, man. It's going to be by the way the Spirit says. Make sure that no one is immoral or godless like Esau, man, who traded his birthright as a firstborn son for a single meal, man. He was about now, 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 now. Let's do it now. Let's do it now. Let's do it now. But also in a sense, it's another spiritual sense. It's like a double whammy in the spirit, right? Because it's just like you want everything done fast. You don't want to do the work of any. You don't truly want to do the work of making. I guess you could say being clean or doing good things, man. Because this man's a wicked man. Everything that they do is pretty much it's not just psychological. It's more so it's their way of being, man. So there's certain things in certain of us that we're not going to be able to, come up off of you because the Lord put that in your spirit. That's why you are to fear the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and His Son, Yahweh Shai, man. Especially right now, because you're gonna have to utilize the spirit of an individual. Esau's cunning these days, man. Very cunning, very deceptive, man. But behind closed doors, you just know that's the same devil from 2025 to 3,000 years ago, however you want to put it. That's the same devil, man. You know, and just like he's snakish, and just like Jake, likes to snake their own people, man. That's all he's doing. That's all he's done is snake you, Jake. But at the end of the day, I said, I was gonna make this quick. I was watching some things. I watched that, and I was like, was thinking about the spirit of the individual and the spirit, how the spirit is moving. Because you're gonna see a lot of people start to come and try to be your friend whenever things really pop off, and the Lord really starts dealing with you, and He starts showing you forth that He's dealing with you, man. You know, for keeping the faith and staying faithful to Him, man, and continuing the fight, man. The Lord is gonna show you that He's dealing with you, and you're gonna see everybody. You know, kind of, you're gonna have to understand, man. Everybody's not your friend right now. You know, whether it be white, whether it be black. You know, let me get this too. Because at the end of the day, if they speak anything other than the gospel that we've learned, right, they pretty much they ain't shit, man. Now I put that up there. Now you have to get this, put that up there too, because you see in Esau and Eve get the boot, man. They're starting to get the boot.
Why miss out on potential love of your life just because some guy dated her and it didn't work out? Trying to defend herself is like, oh, men think that another man can taint a woman. It really has very little to do with the other man and more to do with you. A lot of women they've had relationships that have completely changed their personalities, the way they trust a man, the way they view men in general. I feel like you can be in a messed up relationship that can really mess you up. Now, this is the next thing. There's some women who go into relationships and, because of relationships.
I'm gonna get this real quick. Let's get Sirach 25 or 26. And this is at the end of the day, this is the Lord called it. At the end of the day, man is to be over the woman. The woman is to obey her man. These things are not really taught in Babylon. In Babylon, you got free. You're free to do whatever the hell you want. You're free to be a hoe and make money off the men, make money off of simps or what, pretty much flaunt around and then play the victim whenever you need help. But see, that victim card is starting to dwindle because his ass is on the line now. he has no problem getting rid of you. And at the end of the day, you're really hurting yourself in the long run. These things that we've been saying, these things that we say, it ain't even our words. It's really the Lord's Spirit. So take heed, man. It's Sirach 26:1. It says, "Blessed is a man that have a virtuous wife," and you should never choose a woman just solely based upon her looks, man. Beauty is a demon, bro. A lot of people get trapped by beauty, man. At the end of the day, you can deal with a decent woman and you can build up to something that you want, if you choose so to do that. But at the end of the day, a lot of these women out here, more than likely, they're not willing, they're not in the mindset of a wife, man. And this is how we know. Blessed is the man that have a virtuous wife, for the number of his days shall be doubled, man. It says a virtuous woman rejoiceth her husband, and he shall fulfill the years of his life in peace. So a lot of times, you're dealing with these modern women, you're dealing with modern day harlots or strippers in a sense, man. What they find as let's take it to what opposed to what we're trying to be a part of. What they find as, a high value man, or this and that. In this society, we understand the condition that we're in. So a high value man really isn't a high value man to the Lord. A high value man to the Lord is his men, his prophets, his people, whoever he's dealing with, whichever one of the men that he's dealing with, right? So a virtuous husband rejoice for her husband, man. He shall fulfill the years of his life in peace. It says a good wife is a good portion, which shall be given in the portion of him that fear the Lord, man. It also goes into a wicked woman is given unto a wicked man. So that works hand in hand together. If you a wicked nigga, you gonna deal with wicked Eves and you gonna get played. And if you get played, I don't want to hear it, because excuse me, brother, from the elders and apostles on down, brothers have told you, like, there's been hella lessons going into. I mean, you got whistleblowers out there that's going into what's to the separation of a good wife from an evil witch. You know what I'm saying? So if you go ahead and try to, try your card or play these games, and you get hurt in the end, because really Eve's not in her right mind. She's not really in her right state of mind, bro. So that's on you, man. I'm gonna skip down to 36. I mean, verse 6. It says, actually, let's do verse 5, man. It said, there be three things in my heart that my heart fears. And the fourth, I was sore afraid, man. The slander of a city, the gathering together of an unruly multitude. It says that false accusation. It says all these were worse than death, man. You know, crazy, man. How the Lord always goes into the false accusation. Who's the ones that usually, a part of that scandal? Pillow talkers. But we gonna keep going. Verse 6. It says, but a grief of a heart and a sorrow as of a woman. It said that is jealous over another woman, and the scourge of the tongue which commandeth with all, man. It says an evil wife is a yoke to be shaken to and fro. He that have hold of her is as though he held a scorpion, man. And see, that's pretty much what you see in that arena. They don't know what they want. They're confused. You know, um, I don't really even like doing lessons on women like that because I don't even deal with. I really focus on the ministry and focus on the brothers. But at the end of the day, you got to know what's really true. Women out here, at the end of the day, you be wasting your time. I've been saying it. I'm gonna keep saying it, man. If you already made it this far, you made this far in the truth. Solo dolo, just keep focusing on the Lord, man. They'll come if they willing to serve you and come how you want them to come. They will come and do that, man. But at the end of the day, don't you really wasting your time, man. You know they'll wait, and a lot of times they'll try to wait till you build yourself up to something, then come around. Nah, fuck that. I get first dibs now. That's the mindset you gotta have. You the prize. Verse 8. It says a drunken woman and a gather abroad cause great anger. It says she will not cover her own shame. That's what you're seeing. Brittany Renner and all the other hoes, all the other bonnet bandits banded together like the Legion of Doom, to go against all the niggas that they done fucked that they feel like fucked them over, but you was out here playing the harlot. And see now you're being shamed, publicly shamed, and Esau's even publicly shaming you. You even got simp shame. You got lesbian shaming these motherfuckers now, man. So when are you gonna realize that this society that you built up, or I guess you say you live in on this Western culture, this has been really made for you to destroy yourself, and you can't see it because a lot of times it's not just with women but with men too. When you winning, when you in a certain position, when you getting clout, when people are kissing your ass, you don't consider things, the small thing. You don't consider things that people are saying until it starts to add up. you know. So then by the time you don't notice, you done already went through 20 motherfucking niggas. It said the whoredom of a woman may be known in the haughtiness, in her haughty looks and eyelids, and that's where I feel like my discernment is really good with understanding, people, not just just discernment, but just people in general, men, women. The Lord says you can tell a person by the countenance. You can tell a woman definitely that you just leave it out there, like it says. If thy daughter be shameless, you just don't even care about taking her out the walk of shame. You know, shaking the ass when you're out, hips side to side, knowing. I mean, goddamn, you might as well just scream out, "Fuck me." It says, "Keep her in a straitly." It says, lest she abuse herself through over much liberty, man. And that's what you're supposed to do. That's why it tells about not giving them, like keeping a closer eye on your daughters than your sons, man. But let's get this real quick. There's another one I want to get. I'm just bringing these things out, just various topics, man. I was just looking into. Uh, it's Proverbs 5:1. It says, "My tongue, my son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear unto my understanding." It says that thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. It says, "For the lips of a strange woman drop as a honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil, man." You see, and I'm gonna read that at the end of it. It says, "For the lips of an immoral woman are sweet as honey, man, and her mouth is smoother than oil." And a lot of these women of this modern age, majority of them are evil, man. I'm just gonna say it flat out. I don't give a fuck if you don't like me. I've never given a fuck. They evil as fuck, man. You know. So you gotta when you choose who you dealing with, you gotta really, choose with discretion, man. Don't just deal with somebody just because they look good or they they make you feel good for a moment, man. Fuck that little moment. You know, you got to actually deal with these when you was a child, you thought and you spoke as a child. When you put on this cup of suffering in your Shai, you don't think like a child no more. You think like a man. Now I understand, brothers, we go, they're gonna deal how they deal, man. They're gonna go and deal how they deal in this world when it comes to women. That's something you need to pray to the Lord about. But at the end of the day, if you're gonna deal as a like, if you're trying to have this one as a wife, you got to understand where you stand as a man. A lot of times, I was listening to the Elder Yashawamba's video. You may not be ready for a wife, and I'm just gonna keep it 1,000 with you. I don't really feel like I'm really ready for a wife, man. You know, there's just too much shit that's done happen. It's just all over the place, and now I'm already set. I'm really just excited about the focusing on the Lord, man. But at the end of the day, to the brothers who are coming in, to the young brothers, even older brothers coming in that maybe have a little trouble with this issue, man. I just wanted to give a little exhortation, man, because at the end of the day, you're not losing. You the prize, man. It may not seem like it yet. You the prize, man. It says her. It says, I'm gonna read out of KJV, verse 4. It says, but her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword, man. Her feet go down to hell. It's like her feet go down to death, man. Her steps take hold of hell, man. That's why a lot of these women love chaos, man. Because we're living in the hell that her and this damn devil, her daddy, pretty much her pimp, has pretty much designated this hell for us to continuously, go through and stay in, man. But at the end of the day, nah, man, this is hell, man. The Lord wasn't going was his intentions wasn't to keep us here forever. He was eventually going to free his people. You see what I'm saying? There's that spiritual demons, not spiritual demon, that spiritual grave hell that they talk about. All of that woman, all that virgin birth, all of that is rooted. And when you really get into, when I've been looking into certain things of history that have happened lately as well, man. Like women worship has really deterred the minds. Is women worship strong men they don't want to speak up because of money, right? And then weak men that just become simps under these women because they can maneuver and it's easier for them to maneuver. But see, the thing is, the Lord is about to take out all delicacy, so all it's about to be fair play for everybody, you know. And you going when you test it, it's gonna be one of the things. All right, well, how do you carry yourself as a man? See, man, the Lord is going to be a difference between man and the Lord and these fucking harlots, man. Or you're gonna know who the Lord is dealing with by how they carry themselves, man. So that's why in this grace period, you're supposed to be growing yourself, building yourself up as a man, showing yourself approved. At the end of the day, like I said, you're gonna deal how you deal. But I just want to get into this little topic, various topic, just thinking about something to get into. There's so much going on, the Charlie Kirk incident, which at the end of the day, that all these little different psyops is going on. I heard that I'm hearing that Russia is shooting at shot down or is talking about going to war with Russia. Poland is talking about going to war with not Poland, but Poland in NATO is just talking about going to war with Russia. And if that happens, what will spark up? Trump is disappointed. He expected then Poland is expecting to hear from Donald Trump. Just a whole bunch of things going on. Which are all just the things that the Lord said will be happening before His return. I'm waiting on that as that second Ezra 13th chapter when He actually comes. And, excuse me. He breaks the cloud. He flies down from that mountain. He tries to plead with them. What do? All the army's going to stop fighting, and they're going to try to turn their face, and they're going to try to fight him. He's going to fly back up into his chariot. He's going to blast their ass, man. I'm still waiting to see that. As scary as that is going to be, we on edge. Men of the Lord are on edge, man. So call Allah, Yamla, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashim Rakah Kodash, and double honors to the elders and apostles, GMS do real well, and peace and salutations to the hopeful elect.